Hello, everyone. My name is Kwamia Ross, and today I want to delve further into the group homes and expose more of the evil that's going on in group homes. Now, I have a clip here that I want you all to look at. I found this off of, I don't know if anyone looks at the Prince family, but this is a video that was made 3 years ago where the Prince family's mother had voluntarily put her daughter into a group home, and she was having a hard time getting them back. She realized she made a mistake when they were trying to destroy the communication, the family bond, and they weren't taking care of her daughter correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and insert this video here so you can take a look at that.
Those we supposed to go to Wayne and visit.
Yeah, we gonna do that. But don't you wanna go to the new house?
Yes.
Remember they were gonna do your nails and stuff? They do everything that your group home do. They do everything. I don't understand why, you let them try to brainwash you. They said that they take you out, all that. But, I don't understand why you don't want to be with your mama. I'm your mama. You don't let nobody take you from your mama. I just want you to be with me. Life is not all about having fun and stuff. I understand you want to have fun. But why do you want to be with me, Brianna? I've been there for you the whole entire time. And you don't want to be with me no more. I can't do it no more, Brianna. I won't see you no more. I won't. Because you can live here in Fort Wayne with me. You can be with me. They don't do what they're supposed to do for you. They don't comb your hair. They don't care what you look like. I picked you up. You wasn't looking right. But why? I don't understand why you don't want me. What did I do to you? What did I do, Brianna?
Nothing.
Well, why you don't want to move back to Fort Wayne? You only got one mama. I'm your mama. Just remember that you always have one mama. I don't understand. It's not a game. It's a life. Like I said, you better enjoy me now before I die or something. It's going to be too late.
I don't want you to die.
Okay. Like I said, you're supposed to enjoy your mama. You're supposed to love your mama. You don't let nobody replace me. Nobody. They're not your mama. They got their own mama, and their mamas don't want them. I allowed you to move out. I helped you move out, because that's what I thought you wanted. But I ain't told you to move out for you don't love me, for you don't want to be around me or the kids.
I love you.
Well, you don't act like it. You don't call us. You don't do none of that. You worry about the boys and stuff. I ain't want you moving in the house with no boys. Like I said, you still can have fun. I'm not telling you to move in my house. I'm not telling you that. I want you to be independent. That's why I sent you out in the real world by yourself. Not by yourself with some help. Because without help, people will take advantage of you because you're disabled. But I just want you to be, the independent woman. But I did not send you out there to be crippled in the system and let them brainwash your head. They're brainwashing you. I love you. You my oldest. You my oldest daughter. And you don't want to be with me. You don't want to be around me. You love to be around me, but you just don't want to be in Fort Wayne. So they say. They say that you want to be in Fort Wayne. Is it true?
I do want to be in Fort Wayne.
Well, you need to let them know that. Don't let them control you. Don't let them control you. You need to be in no group home. You too independent. You hear me? Ain't nothing wrong with you. You got your head, but you don't make good decisions best for you. You don't. And the only reason why I put you over there because I thought they'd be best for you, and they're not best for you. What was best for you to keep you at home? I should have kept you home. Cause I ain't send you off for this stuff. They don't have you call me. They say that you don't even try to call. They say you don't ask for my number or nothing. You don't ask them to call me?
I do.
They say you don't. That's what Tanya said. She said you don't. Like I said, I don't appreciate them lying on you, because I know they lying. I don't appreciate it at all. Huh?
I don't want to come back to
You
work.
don't?
I do.
But I just want to let you know that I love you. It hurts me. I took care of you when you was a baby. All the way up to now, I've always been involved in your decisions. And now they say I can't. They say you don't want to be in Fort Wayne. You want to move. You want to move closer to none of your family. You got 8 brothers and sisters. 8. And we all love you. You got 8 brothers and sisters. Everybody be asking about you. Everybody. You got too many family. Too much family here to be out of town like you don't have nobody. I just pray that I'm your mama. I'm not going to hurt you. You hear me? I want what's best for you. They take all your money. All of it but $50. You don't have no money. I have to pay for your x-ray for your teeth. And they didn't even tell me that, they didn't tell me when you got your wisdom teeth pulled out. I wanted to be there for you. I didn't want you to be in pain or nothing. So I don't know if they gave you medicine or not. When I talked to you, you said, Mama, where you was at? I got my wisdom teeth pulled. You said it hurt. It hurt. I told him it hurt. It ain't give me nothing. I couldn't help you.
Now, as you've seen from that video, there were a lot of instances that stood out where the mother was talking about how, they would never let her speak to her daughter. When she tried to contact her, they would say she wasn't trying to call her. They kind of tried to keep the communication away. They were trying to hold her there and keep her there. The fact that they weren't taking care of her right. They were taking her disability check, leaving her just with $50, weren't combing her hair. Every time she went to pick her up or see her daughter was looking a certain way. She didn't have good clothes to wear or anything like that. Or the fact that when she was getting her teeth pulled, she didn't have adequate, proper medication. And it shows that there was neglect at this group home. Now, the reason why I want to delve further, and I'm making this video, is because my son has spent an extensive amount of time at Ohio Guidestone. He was also held briefly at Cleveland Christian Home, and I realized a lot of these things that were said in this video is some of the things that I've experienced. So the Lord has shown me that a lot of these group homes, these children are not being treated properly, and this is one of the reasons why He allowed my son to be put in the group home. I was very devastated and upset when my children were taken out by Children and Family Services, but the fact is God allowed it to happen because my eyes were able to be open and I was being used as His vessel to speak up against all the things that are happening. I would not have known anything about any of this stuff, but the thing is, God has placed staff members. He has placed people in positions who work at these group homes. He has placed them in these positions to advocate for these children and speak up. But these people have chosen not to out of fear and cowardice. Like I spoke in another video, my previous video, where I talk about my daughter and the sexual abuse. If you're sitting in these positions and God puts you in a position, whether you're saved or not, you have an obligation to protect the children. If you're sitting in a position and you see abuse happening, whether you're just a staff worker, whether you're just a therapist, whether you're just a caseworker or a psychologist, or you're a director or a manager, if you're in this position and you're seeing abuse happen or you're contributing to that abuse, God is going to hold you accountable. Children are the greatest in His kingdom, and we can't get away with abusing and hurting His children. Now, there's people, like I spoke of before, that are in abusive situations themselves, and then they come out to become abusive and predators because they're not getting the help they need. But at the end of the day, if you know that there's a problem, you need to go and seek help because you're accountable for what you do. Now, God had to take my children and put them in Children and Family Services, put them in foster care so that I could see all the evil, wicked things that were going on and exposed, because the people who He put in these positions, gave jobs to, and trust in these situations would not speak out. Now, I'm going to let you know now that God is going to deal with you, and especially those who are Christians, who call themselves Christians, everyone proclaims to be a Christian, but you are watching abuse and you sit here out of fear. God said, and it says in the Bible, you're supposed to fear God. It's better to fear God than fear man. So if you fear man over God and you let man keep you from doing what you're supposed to do, believe me, God is going to deal with you and judge you, and you're not going to like the judgment, and you might not even make it into his kingdom. You might suffer for eternity because you were too afraid of a man, and you allowed people to persuade you to do what you were not supposed to do, or persuade you to do something that you were supposed to do for God. We are supposed to be vessels. You think I wanted my kids to be taken into a group home or put in foster care? You think I wanted to be separated from my children for 18 months and watch them suffer and go through abuse? No, I did not. But that had to happen because other people failed to do what they're supposed to do, and they're still failing to do it. I have spoken out to many people with many platforms about all this situation, all the abuse that was going on. Did any of them speak up? No, they did not. But a lot of them proclaim to be God's children. I'm not going to expose them on here, but they know who they are. And God will deal with you eventually. Now, what I want to talk about is with these group home situations. My son recently came home from the group home. As you can see, about a few days ago, I made a video about my son finally get to leave Ohio Guidestone. Now, I want to talk about when my son was first sent to Ohio Guidestone. It was back towards the end of May, close to June of 2020. It was very hot. Now, I was sending clothes up there because I was concerned about my child. I wanted to make sure he had summer clothes, appropriate clothes to wear. I was always told by the caseworker, oh, he get a voucher. They're going to get him some new clothes when it gets close to school starting. They get a voucher. Okay, but I saw that my daughter had a voucher. Her foster parent took her out and got her a bunch of clothes. She looked nice. So she got a voucher. She was able to get clothes. Now, I saw my son. When I went to see my son, because I was concerned about him. First time I seen him, I brought him a coat. He had a rain jacket from, it was a North Face rain jacket, which I'm going to post a picture of it here. Now, that rain jacket, I haven't seen him with it since, and it did not come home with him. So a lot of the times I would send clothes up to my child. They wouldn't let him wear it. Now, he complained to me about it when he was finally able to talk to me. So this is another thing. The group homes try to keep you from talking to your children because they don't want you to know what's really going on with them. They claim that COVID was one of the reasons why the communication was broken. But as you could see in the video I posted, that this woman wasn't able to talk to her child either. And this was well before COVID even happened. This was 3 years ago, 3 years prior to all of this. So when my son was first placed in Ohio Guidestone, because he had just moved from Cleveland Christian Home where I couldn't even talk to him at all. I only talked to him about 10 minutes. Probably I had 2 calls a week, or 10-minute calls, and I had to initiate that. Sometimes he would call me. They would let him call me on the weekends when he got a chance. But in the beginning, when he was first sent to Ohio Guidestone, they told me that they would contact me. The thing is, I never even knew he was being transferred there. Last time we had a meeting, I sat at the table with Tanya Cross, Becky Sawyer, Rosalind Bailey, Amanda Clark, and a few other people. They were asking questions about where I wanted my son placed. And I was saying then that I did not want him in another restrictive environment, another institutionalized setting like Cleveland Christian Home, because he had a lot of issues at Cleveland Christian Home. I said I did want him in a private foster care facility. They were telling me then, okay, they could look, but there was no guarantee he could be in a foster care facility. So they went forth and they put him in Ohio Guidestone. I didn't even know they had placement for him. So they found placement. The only way I realized this because I called up to Cleveland Christian Home to see if I could send my son an MP3 player, because I didn't know he could use music all that time. So he kept asking me to bring him an MP3 player. And so the woman who I spoke to, his case manager, said, well, he's about to be leaving soon anyway. He's going to be leaving tomorrow. They found placement for him at Ohio Guidestone. So I was like, oh, I didn't know this. I didn't know my son was leaving at all. No one told me. I wasn't even invited to the placement meeting at Ohio Guidestone. So I contacted Ohio Guidestone myself to get information. They said, okay, the caseworker called me back with the information to contact my son to talk to him. So I was given a number when the caseworker finally called me because I was very upset that she hadn't told me that they found placement for a kid and that I wasn't invited to the meeting. She had withheld all that from me. So when Becky Sawyer finally called me, she gave me a number to call my son at the cottage. She said I can call after 6. So I called him the first time. I was able to speak to him and see how he was doing. He was doing great. They said he was in a quarantine cottage with no other children, so he wasn't going to any type of group because they have groups. So they said I can call him usually any time during the day because I wanted to know when can I call my son and speak to him. So they said you should be able to call any time because he's not doing group right now since he's in quarantine. So he's going to be free pretty much throughout the day. So I would call him and call him. The phone would ring. No one would ever call me back. I could never reach my son. I would call. No one would ever answer that phone at that cottage. And it was very difficult to get in touch with my son. I also wanted to have visitation with him. That was cut off. And I kept calling the staff to see if someone could set up visitation. They said they didn't have any formal visitation set up. They weren't letting people come to the cottage because of COVID, but they did have some staff who could set up FaceTime visitations. And they said for me to contact my son's therapist at the time, who was Marty, and he can initiate those visits. So I called Marty and kept trying to reach him. And he finally called me back about probably a week later and proceeded to tell me that there was no visitation. So I said, well, what about virtual visits? I was told by one of the staff that they do have FaceTime visits. So he says, oh, okay, because he would have proceeded to tell me that there was nothing at all. He wasn't going to initiate telling me anything about virtual visitation, so I had to bring it up myself. So this is the thing. They hide it, don't want you really keep in contact with your kids. And so I asked him, could you set up virtual visitation so I can FaceTime with my son? So it took a while, and I hadn't seen him. He didn't contact me back at all. So I had some clothes. I went up to the cottage. I knew where they were at. I went up to the cottage and asked the director, could I see my son? So she pulled up she said he was doing great, because I told her the situation where I'd been calling to the cottage. I could not speak with him. I hadn't been able to they hadn't set up any FaceTime visits to have virtual visitation with him. And so she allowed me at that time. She gave me a little favor, and she pulled up on her screen. And she said she had a camera, and she showed me my son was sitting in one of the rooms with the other kids. And one thing that stood out, my son had this long sleeve sweater, and it was hot. And I noticed that. So I went back and brought him some more clothes, and they says, you don't really need to bring him clothes. We're going to give him clothes. We have clothes for him. But I was still concerned that my kid didn't have clothes to wear. So I would bring shorts up there. My son, when he would talk to me, I'd get in touch with him at night. He says, oh, they're not giving him his clothes. They're not letting him wear his clothes. I said, well, what are you wearing now? He said, some worn down, hand-me-down shirt. And I was angry. I'm like, well, why are you having my kid walk around like this? Why does he have clothes? So it took a long time going back and forth. I saw a lot of mistreatment where my son would tell me some kids could go to bed and stay up all night. And when I would look and hear in the background, would hear the kids up and stuff, and they would be up. My son would be off in his room. And, he would tell me a lot of things when I first got there. And, the way this rehabilitation was set up, some parents had voluntarily took their kids there because of their behavior. And then there were other kids there who were placed there involuntarily by Children and Family Services. Now, what I did notice that stood out to me, that there seemed to be some discrimination, racial discrimination that I noticed. Now, when I looked at the picture, when she held up the camera and showed me my son, I did see some Caucasian children there and some other children, and they had on shorts. But why is my son wearing pants and a long sleeve sweater? And I started bringing him clothes because they weren't giving him clothes to wear. I didn't feel they had appropriate clothing for him to wear. But when I was bringing him clothes, they weren't putting them clothes on him. They were taking the clothes, and I don't know, they weren't letting him wear his clothes. They were hiding it in the office somewhere. And then they gave me an excuse that my son was bedwetting. That's why he didn't have access to his clothes, because he was wetting himself. But I still wanted them to put on his clothes. Then we had an issue with the MP3 player. My son was telling me everybody had an MP3 player but him. His the MP3 player that I got him from Cleveland Christian Home somehow wasn't working. So he wanted an MP3 player to listen to music. And they said themselves that, special needs children, it's good for them to listen to music. So I was like, okay, well, I'll bring you an MP3 player. So I went to the store and see an MP3 player. I ended up getting my kid an iPod. And the iPod wasn't able to be used there because it had a camera on it, which I did not know. They wouldn't let them use the iPod. So they told me, no one called me to come get the iPod. My son just told me he couldn't use it. So I went up there myself to get it because it was $200 iPod. So I asked them to give me my iPod. Give me my son's iPod. So they went to the office, got him the iPod. I talked with the director, Megan, at the time, and says, my son needs something to listen to. He wants music to listen to. So I was told by her, okay, well, we do have MP3 players that we give to the children. So I says, okay, well, can you make sure he gets one? She said, I'll make sure he gets one. So I tried to call later on that evening. No one answered the phone. So the next evening, I did get the chance to call, and one of the staff answered the phone, and I asked to speak to my son. And I said, did you get your MP3 player? He says, no one gave me an MP3 player. So here I am upset again. And so I asked to speak to the staff. So one of the staff there got on the phone. I don't remember her name, but the woman got on the phone, and she proceeded to tell me that, the parents bring in MP3 players, that the staff doesn't give them MP3 players. I said, I talked to the director, Megan, and she already told me that you do give out MP3 players. Why aren't you giving my son an MP3 player? Then my son was told, he told me that he was isolated in his room, that he was sent to his room with nothing to do as a form of punishment. And I questioned her about that. She said at the time it's because my son had tried to hurt himself, because he had a pencil sharpener. He had put it inside his mouth or something, tried to cut himself. So basically, here's the thing. My son wasn't able to talk to me. He was in this environment where he had nothing to do. He wasn't able to talk to me. He was depressed. And if he tries to harm himself, you penalize him by putting him in a room with nothing to do, like he's in an isolation inside of a prison. And I questioned her about that. I was very angry. And I went back to Megan and spoke to her. And I said, you know what they've done? They haven't given my son the MP3 player. They're saying that you don't give it out. I told her about the other situation about him getting hurt and being put in the room with nothing to do. And so I had to constantly keep going back and talking with these people and fighting for my son. I had to advocate for my son. And the thing is, all this stuff is covered and hidden, and all these things are being done to these people. And there are parents who cannot get out there. This place is way out in Berea, and it took me about 40 minutes to drive out there. There's some parents who don't have cars. They don't have access to transportation. They can't go back and forth. They don't know what's going on with their children, or they don't have, maybe they don't know how to advocate for their children. The thing is, their kids are allowed to suffer in these environments because they don't have anyone to speak up for them. So I had to constantly, through the help of God, I had to constantly go up there, and I had to fight for my kids because I've been fighting for my kids since they were little and in school. God has been using me as a fighter to go and advocate for my children. That's something I've always been doing, was advocating for my kids. When I see injustice, I speak up about it. And this is what we have been going through for a long time. So I questioned her and I said, you know what, where's my son? You said you give him an MP3 player. Why doesn't he have an MP3 player? So they finally gave him an MP3 player. Then they finally started treating him better, giving him his clothes to wear. I said, why don't he have his clothes? They gave him his shorts. They gave him all the new clothes I was sending him. Now, reason why I talked about that, so we're going to talk about now that my son's come home, and I'm going to insert a clip of a video because here's the thing. My son said one of the kids had stolen one of the jackets I brought him. I brought him a jacket around Christmas time. We were bringing him lots of things, and he got a jacket for me. I brought him a lot of new clothes, and I didn't recall him ever really getting any new clothes from Ohio Guidestone. Majority of the time, they gave him donated clothes donated from either the staff or other people. The therapist even said they get clothes donated to them, and these are like a lot of oversized clothes, and sometimes he said other kids would give him clothes. Most of the time, the kids would get clothes from their family. So I'm going through my son's clothes because he just came home from Ohio Guidestone yesterday, and he was at the cottage. And my thing is, when he was first brought there, I would bring clothes up to him all the time. I was bringing clothes to the cottage. I would stop by to the director's office and give her clothes, brand new clothes. And my son was telling me they weren't letting him wear his clothes. I was getting feedback that he couldn't wear certain shorts or whatever. I think in the beginning they were saying he couldn't wear basketball shorts. So I was worried about him having clothes to wear because it was summertime. And when I went up to the office one day to talk with the director, Megan, she showed him on the camera, said he's doing fine, but I noticed that it was hot outside, but my son had a long sleeve shirt. Looked like a hand-me-down shirt. And I'm like, well, he has clothes, wear his clothes. She said, they said, don't worry about bringing him clothes because they're going to get him clothes. So my daughter, she's in foster care. She was in foster care. She's still in foster care currently, and she was in private foster care. She wasn't in a group home. So the thing is with her, they gave her a voucher. She got all types of brand new clothes. Her foster parent took her out and got her a bunch of brand new clothes, and she looked nice. So I was asking my caseworker, Becky, when is my son going to get clothes? She said, they'll give him a voucher. Ohio Guidestone will give him a voucher, but they were actually getting donated a lot of clothes. And as you can see, a lot of these clothes were donated. They told me that they donate clothes to the children. And see, some of these are too big. If you see it, this is a big 42, size 42. This is a large shirt that looks like for a man and something that a child can't fit. Oh, no, my son, he's kind of small. And some of the things I bought for him himself, these pants, I bought him this. And a lot of the stuff, I would bring new clothes there and I would notice they would go missing. He couldn't find them anymore. Like I bought him a North Face jacket. There was over $100 and he doesn't have it. These are all worn down clothes, as you can see. This is the stuff that they're giving the children. There was never any brand new clothes. I didn't see any brand new clothes that he was buying, that he was given. Some pants here. What else do they have? Let me show these. And this is some of the clothes that, a lot of this is just, like I said, worn down clothes. They never got really anything that was new. I didn't see him get a voucher. You could tell here a lot of these clothes were donated. And the thing I'm looking at is, if you're getting money, all these grants and donations from corporations, why aren't the kids getting clothes that they can actually wear, new clothes for the children? Why are they getting all these hand-me-down clothes that are either oversized or just worn for years old and things like that? So it's a lot more where that came from, but I'm just showing a little bit of what's going on here at these group homes. And so my thing is, he's getting a check. He has disability. They took his check. Children and Family Services had the check signed over to them. So you're getting a check to take care of him. Not only that, you say he's supposed to have a voucher. You took him out, so he wasn't getting any clothes. So I was only time he would get like new clothes is when I would bring him up to him. But I was told that he would get clothes. They did give him a pair of shoes. He did get a pair of shoes, which, after a while he wore them. After several months, they were starting to look ragged and I had to replace those shoes. My son was used to wearing, when he was at home with me, he would go through, about 3 or 4 pair of shoes within a year's time because, wearing the same shoes every day could become worn. And I understand some kids don't have those means, but I felt that the kids were not being properly taken care of, and there was a lot of injustice done. So as you can see the difference between the clothes I had and the clothes they gave when they had them walking around with these type of clothes. And the reason why, another thing, with the coats, his coat was stolen. He said another boy had took one of his coats, was walking around with it. And so my thing is, why would that boy even need to steal a coat of my son's if Ohio Guidestone was providing coats for these children? I remember it was a lot of snow on the ground when it first started snowing about a few months ago before summer started. It snowed really bad. I think it was March or April. And my son, it was probably before then, but it was starting to become really cold outside. And he had on, when I went to visit him, he had on a really thin sweater. He didn't have a jacket on. So I was like, well, where's your jacket? You need to wear your jacket. And so I asked him, did he have anything to wear? And I'm thinking that they're going to provide him this. So I went out and bought my son these jackets because I thought that Ohio Guidestone, since they have them in custody, and Children and Family Services have them in custody, they will provide jackets and coats for these children. I had to buy my kid a jacket. So I bought him an irreversible winter jacket to wear. Not only that, we bought him a rain jacket, a North Face coat. I bought him, as you can see in the picture I posted. He had that. Now, one of his jackets, he said, one of the kids had stolen it. So obviously, did the kid have his own jacket? When it was snow on the ground, my son asked me, could I buy him a snowsuit? Because he says the other kids have snowsuits. Only 2 kids have snowsuits. They only had 2 snowsuits to give to the children. They didn't have enough for everybody. So basically, they're just issuing out who they want to have certain things, and they're not providing enough for all of them. So my question is this: if you're getting donations and you get donations from corporations, you have all this money, where's it going? Why aren't the children getting proper clothing? Why do you have to have clothes donated to the children? Who's taking care of the children's needs? They'll say that they're providing shelter for them. They're providing housing and food, but when you're taking on the role to take care of someone, you're supposed to provide for all of their needs, as a parent does. When a parent has a child, they're supposed to provide for clothing for them, right? We don't just provide shelter. We provide a roof for them over their heads. We provide food for them to eat. We also have to put clothes and shoes on their backs. So if Children and Family Services are taking our kids out of our custody, they should be responsible for providing clothes and shoes for these children. They shouldn't have to walk around this type of way. Not only that, I would have to bring, yes, Ohio Guidestone provided certain things for my kid, like shampoo and stuff, but they did not provide things that were for Black children. They would provide stuff that would dry their hair out that was not good on their skin. My son's skin was all chafed, and if you can see, his eczema had flared up and broken out a lot. He had problems with his eczema. I had to go up there and provide cream. I would bring body wash up there for him, hairspray, all types of shampoos and oils and stuff. I took care of my kid. I sent these things up there to him. But the thing is, the other children probably did not have this if their parents weren't in the position to bring that to them. This group home was not making sure that they had those type of things. So it's like, if you're going to take our children out of the home, they need to be taken care of properly. And it shouldn't be just a one size fits all. You should have things that are geared towards, African American children as well. There are children with different ethnicities who have different needs. But everything they brought was things that is typical that a Caucasian would use on their skin and hair. These are the things that I've noticed, and I look at it, it's like our children are not being taken care of properly. And these are some of the things that God was bringing to my attention. And so that's why I want to bring forth all this as well, because I feel that there's a lot of oppression going on in these group homes. And a lot of the children, their needs are not being taken care of properly. Like I said, my son, he had eczema flared up all over his skin. I had to go back and forth. His skin was not looking like that when he was with me, but they were not taking care of his eczema. His eczema was uncontrolled. Not only that, he had complained about having a toothache. Sometimes he would say he had to go sleep at night. He would be in so much pain he could barely sleep. And I said, well, why hasn't his tooth been extracted? Because I had been told months before that he had a tooth that needed to be pulled, and I gave permission for it to be pulled, but they did not take this tooth out of his mouth. I had to go up to the once again, I had to go up to the director and speak to her. I spoke to the nurse. They said they've been giving him medication. He can have medication if his tooth hurts. But I said, well, you're not supposed to keep giving them medication. You're supposed to take care of the problem. The tooth needs to be extracted. So I had to advocate for my child. And after I said all this, they pulled the tooth. They had the tooth extracted from his mouth. But it's like, if I hadn't said anything, my son would have still been suffering in pain with this tooth. So they're not being treated right in a lot of these situations, but it's like you want to come in the home and take the kids out because, you get collateral off them. You use them as a meal ticket. You use them. It's just like a modern form of slavery, taking the kids out of the home, Children and Family Services, all these group homes. This is just a modern form of slavery. This money that they're getting donated, they get millions of dollars in revenue. Where's the money going? Even the staff say that a lot of the reviews, I've looked up reviews, and a lot of the staff say they don't get paid well, but yet they're making all this revenue. So who's it going to? The directors, the executives, the CEOs, the presidents, all of them getting all this money off the oppression of our children. You have our children locked up in these group homes, locked up in these situations, these environments like it's a prison so you can get money. It's no different from the actual jails that adults go to, where they're using these people that get free labor out of them, have them work and build things for these corporations so they can get billions of dollars off of it. And not only that, they're making all this money off of commissary. This is all a setup. And like I said, they think of, in these group homes, they think of the children as their property. When I went back the last time, my son had left one of his bags at the group home, all of his toiletries and everything inside of it. So I went back to the group home to pick it up, and it's like the Holy Spirit was crying out. There was a crying feeling for those children who are still there. It's like they're in a bondage. And it's like, my work has been done. I put up through all kinds of things. I fought and advocated. I used my voice to speak out. I prayed and tried my best to do everything I could. But now God, it's time to start using other people. Those of you who are there and aware of this situation, it's time that you start standing up and doing your part also. Like I said, God's going to hold you accountable. And if you're sitting here allowing this stuff to go forward and you don't do what you're supposed to do and you're letting these children suffer, believe me, God's going to bring judgment on you and your household. But this is not right to treat children this way. You wouldn't want your children to be done this way. You wouldn't want your family to be abused and oppressed. And these are vulnerable families, parents, and even if the parents do not care about the kids. Some of the situations where the parents are putting these where the children are put in these group homes because they have parents who neglected them, then these kids are more deserving of nurturing and love from you. Just because a child is abandoned or thrown away does not give you a right to mistreat them and abuse them. They're still human beings. They're God's creation. He loves them. Whether anyone else doesn't love them, if they're not responsible for the type of family that they come to. They cannot help it if they have a parent who does not love them. The thing is, if you want to take them out of the home and you want to remedy the situation, you're supposed to be loving them and nurturing them and providing for them and treating them right, not contributing to the abuse and the oppression and the neglect that they've already been enduring. So that's why I said God is about to hold some people accountable in these group homes. Staff, all of them. He's about to start shaking some stuff up because children and family services, all this child protective services, all this stuff has to stop. It is oppressing our children. It's going on all over America, over this entire country. Now, I'm urging you to start taking your position. If you're in a means to help, whether God has given you a position to have a platform to speak out or some type of authority or any type of certificate, degree, or license or some form, use what you have and let God do the rest. Thank you.